and Arteta, they deserve it.
Oh, they're behind again. It's amazing. It's Aaron Ramsey. That's the response of Arsenal.
Iwobi, nicely done, brilliantly done. Bayern Walcott. Sensational Arsenal goal.
Is that a handball? No. Nothing the play can do.
Great, what a goal! Arsenal have made it 3-0. Jack Wilshere with an absolute thunderbolt.
Welcome to Thursday Night Live. I'm laughing already. That's because I just noticed a direct message I just got from Liam saying don't forget to press the go live button. which I did with 21 seconds to go, I think. I did forget. almost. Welcome to Thursday Night Live, a show for Arsenal fans all over the world. New guest tonight as well. Max has decided that he would prefer to play golf in the hot sunshine than watch Arsenal reserves play Europa League football and then talk to me and Liam for an hour. But in his place tonight, mainstay of the original Clock End Talk podcast, the man who introduced me to the Clock End Talk podcast, somebody I saw more when he lived in America and I lived in India than we've seen since he moved to England. Welcome, Schwinn.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? I mean, of course, we've had a pandemic since I've moved to this country. So
fuck off. That's no excuse. You've been here for ages, and I hardly ever see you these days. Hardly ever see you. And now we're live on YouTube in this beautiful format where we can have video and actually see each other. And you've decided not to put your camera on. What's that all about?
it doesn't work, actually. I've been trying to fix it for the longest time, but there's just something wrong with one of the drivers, I've been told. So I'm not very good with this stuff. Liam, I wish I could do something about it.
Liam, welcome back, mate. Nice to see your face.
Likewise.
Don't believe a word of what Schwinn says. I've actually been in a room where his podcast is, and he has a little bit of tape over his camera. That's how shy he is, and yet he's a really handsome man. Don't get it. He's a good-looking individual, yet he just doesn't want. Yeah, Salmon. Comment already from Salmon saying looking good. Well, two of us are. Schwinn, I'll forgive you, but it's so much easier. We can actually see you. Are we ever going to get together in England, or are you just going to hide from me until you move away again?
No, I've moved to London now, actually.
Right, fuck you. Just
so. Yeah, so I'm down in Chelsea, and yeah, we should hang out if you're ever in these neck of the woods.
Well, I don't get to Chelsea that often.
Well, anywhere in London, really.
Yeah, absolutely, I can do that. So I take it. Oh, just welcome to another couple of people. Sushant, I believe that's Sushant from who runs the Arsenal India. What's it called? Arsenal Family Group, which I'm part of. Nice to see you, Sushant. I take it you two both watched the game tonight. Have you come straight from it, all excited, Liam?
Yeah, relatively. We scored goals for once, so it's better. It's better than talking about the other last few games, isn't it?
Well, Schwinn, I don't know. I take it you've watched it as well. I did make a note while I was watching that I actually prefer watching this team than I do the main team, if you like.
Yeah, it's a bit more entertaining, isn't it? That you actually feel like you may have a chance, and you actually might have a shot on goal, which come at a premium these days. So it's definitely more exciting to watch this outfit being out there.
I mean, I know we were only playing a team, not even the best team in Norway, and a team with a goalkeeper called Linda. So I don't think we can take too much heart from a convincing away performance. But it just seems, I remember Arsene Wenger once said famously, sometimes in football you have to play with the handbrake off, so that, you just have to release the players and let them enjoy themselves and let them, do something. I just find that watching this team where they're generally not in the first team and they're generally really fighting for their places, that there's just a little bit more effort and dynamism, and I just look forward to watching Pepe unleashed with a handbrake off. I love watching Willock fight like he's trying to get in the first team. I love watching Nketiah work like he does. Isn't it great to see Nelson more step overs than something that's got a lot of step overs? Didn't think that one through. I mean, it's just, what's got a lot of step overs? I don't know. But Liam, isn't that just a little bit more fun tonight? I mean, I know it doesn't mean anything. We're playing, the second team in Norway. We're bound to win that group. We're good enough. Are you a little concerned that our manager takes it a little bit too seriously and puts a really strong side out in these competitions?
Not particularly. I mean, I think I saw there were 8 youth guys from the Highlands in the squad today, not necessarily starting, of course. And I think they're guys that just come through the academy and just enjoy playing football. And I think that plays a large part. When you enjoy playing football and it's not, for example, I don't know, someone like Willian who's a pro and it's his job. These kids enjoy playing football and want to make it, so they express themselves in a way that maybe some of the senior guys don't, and it just makes it more enjoyable to watch, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Schwinn, it's so long since I've spoken to you. I don't even know where you stood on the appointment of Arteta as our manager. Weren't you an Ancelotti fan at one time, or?
Not quite. I mean, I wanted Arteta before we got Emery. I had walked myself into that idea, thinking it's going to be, the next breakthrough in terms of the tier of managers and the type of managers out there. But I'm still a fan. I'm still an advocate and a supporter. Nowhere close to him being out. But I have seen cracks, as we all have, especially in the Premier League. And I do worry. Some of the things that he says or does, they're not consistent. I'm not sure how it's reverberating across the locker room. I do have those concerns. But as Liam and you mentioned, Darren, that there's a clear divide between how we're performing in the Premier League and how we're playing in the Europa League. And the end goal from both competitions is the same: to get Champions League. So it's worrying, but also at the same time comforting to watch these kids play like this every week, and not be too bothered by not being able to make it to the first team, because the first team is in shambles right now.
I mean, I look at Arteta. There's certainly never going to be any criticism from me, especially at this early stage in his Arsenal career. He's learning on the job. We all knew that when we appointed a manager with absolutely zero experience, that it was going to be a challenge. And we finished 8th in the table last year, half of his season, half with Emery, a couple of games from Lundberg. The concern I have, or not the concern, let me just say this. I thought we finished mid-table last year. We didn't really buy too much. Partey obviously is hopefully going to be a big improvement to the team, but we haven't seen that yet. Other teams have improved. Other teams have spent money. I was very positive, thought we could finish easily in the top 4, but looking at the way we're playing, we could easily finish mid-table again. The disappointment for me is that when he took over, a young manager with all of this enthusiasm, I thought he might just strip us bare a little and take a chance with some of the Howland graduates, some of the kids that we got coming through. And I think 9 games into the season, I sort of feel like after 9 games, if we'd have played that team that we played tonight in all of those 9 games, I don't think our position would have been too dissimilar. He's obviously got a talent to fix defences. We haven't got the best personnel at the back, and he's made us one of the strongest defences in the league. And yet there's obviously a lack of momentum and indecision and lack of confidence moving forward. If we'd have played, let me ask this question: if we'd have played that team all season, Liam, do you think we'd be doing any worse?
No, I wouldn't be doing any worse. I'm sort of with you. I think we'd be in a not too dissimilar position, with somewhere maybe around that mid-table. Maybe we score more goals, but because
Liam, carry on. I'm just going to say, when you say don't see it being too much different, it may not be too. That's what I'm saying. It may not be much different from a results point of view, but wouldn't we be enjoying it more? Wouldn't we be more forgiving, rather than saying Williams now a cunt, Pepe last weekend was a cunt, rather than just being so negative on the team? If it was a lot of youngsters coming through, would we not give them more leeway and enjoy the season just a little bit more?
Arguably we could do, but I'd have a feeling that we'd score more goals and ship a lot more goals. So it's that balance of, do we enjoy the going forward but absolutely hate the boring we're going to concede every time someone attacks to us, and it's which end do we dislike in the end? And we'll find ways to criticise, because Twitter is the most reactionary platform I've seen in a long time.
Possibly, it's why I don't enter so much. But and Schwinn, maybe your thoughts on that. But I guess because our defence is the same, we haven't got any young kids coming through the defence. You know, Saliba hasn't worked out. That was a transfer that scares the life out of me, that we spent so much money on a player that's absolutely not Premier League ready for whatever reason, we don't know. But he's fixed the defence. He can fix the defence. He can organise players. But the again, Swin, it's like playing with a handbrake off. These kids, you know, he can structure them. He can put them all in the same positions. But they're trying more things. They're doing back heels. They're trying step overs. They're putting a cross in without thinking, oh, fuck, this might go wrong and I'll have to pass it back. And then we'll pass it across and then we'll go the other side. Then we'll pass it back. Then we'll pass it across. Do you not think we'd be enjoying the season more with that team?
No, I don't think that at all, actually, because we'd be asking a different set of questions. For example, where are the likes of Aubameyang and Partey and everyone else that we rely on week in, week out? And the quality of the opposition is remarkably different. So to expect that we would be playing the same brand of football, or we'd be allowed to play this open sort of football, is, I think, is misaligned with what would actually happen. So I do not agree with that. I also think that we would be in a far worse position than we are in the Premier League. You know, the performance against Man United, we shouldn't forget that. That was just 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. And yes, the result was, you know, a penalty at the end of the day, but we put in a very good 90 minutes at Old Trafford. So we shouldn't lose sight of, you know, what's happened because of what's happening more recently, which is very genuinely disturbing at times.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to take any of that shit, because we played well at Old Trafford against an absolutely appalling Manchester United team on the day. You know, and maybe that was because we played really well, because we went with the right attitude and we didn't allow them to play. But we've been played up the park at times by West Ham United, Sheffield United, Leeds United, as well as, you know, we've held our own against the bigger sides. We might have got battered in those games. But we have been the second best side in most of those 9 games, except for Manchester United. You know,
you can't have your cake. I mean, it doesn't go both ways, Darren. I mean, we've had similar performances in the Europa League. At the end of the day, you look at the results. You know, you cannot taint one competition based on, okay, what really happened in 90 minutes, and then the Europa League, just look at the results. You can't have it both ways.
I guess what my point is that Arteta seems scared to lose football matches. Now, maybe
he should feel scared to lose football matches.
We're Arsenal Football Club. We're Arsenal Football Club. When we're playing the likes of Leeds United, West Ham United, Sheffield United, Leicester City, all of these teams, and I'll include all of the big sides in that as well. We're Arsenal Football Club. We should be going out to beat these sides, not get played off the park by them, and playing in such a structure that's so rigid that we're frightened to try anything. We're frightened to put a cross.
I agree with that. I mean, I completely agree with that. I'm not happy with the way some of the times we've conducted ourselves during the 90. There's no impetus. We completely like it. We like ideas. Forget impetus. So I completely agree with you there. It has been worrying.
And I will say, it is the Europa League. We played Dundalk, Molde, and and Rapid Vienna. These are teams that absolutely we could put our second string out, but we're still not even putting a second string out. I mean, I know we've got a big squad and we've got to get minutes into the legs of Suarez and Ainsley Maitland-Niles, players that aren't getting a good run. But I mean, I just thought, home to Dundalk, he played pretty much a first 11, just to make sure we got the 3 points. I just think there's too much fear in our manager of losing. And I agree, if you don't lose a game of football, if you don't let in any goals, you're not going to lose a game of football. But our chance creation was far better under Unai Emery, and that was bloody a terrible period in our history.
Our chance creation was better in the second third of Arteta's reign. Once Project Reopen, what was it? Project Restart. That was probably a better stint, at least against the bigger teams, and certainly his first 10 games at the club.
Well, Liam, anything to add to that?
No, I think from the Leeds game, I came away from it going, actually, I kind of see why we used to sit and play on the break, because I don't think we've got the players who can play. Because I agree with you. I want to be going out there and beating these teams. But when you do that, you stretch the pitch and you make it about long distances. And we've got a lot of ground to cover. But when we're playing guys like Xhaka and Ceballos, who was the midfield pairing, they can't cover large distances. So by doing what we want actually probably hinders us. And I can kind of see why Arteta does revert, given the squad that he's got. That would be my only argument as to why.
We're missing players like El Neni. I know I don't want to get on the El Neni bandwagon, but this is how slow and ponderous our team has become in transition. We're not fun to watch. One thing, at least watching Arsenal, is we've been fun to watch. There's sometimes where we hang on and we're lucky, but generally this season, I'm watching teams play football around us. Second half against Leicester City, second half against West Ham, last 20 minutes against Sheffield United. These are really frightening times. We're not good enough. Wouldn't we have just been better to say to Xhaka, off you go, say to El Neni and not take Ceballos on, and wouldn't it be more fun just to have a run and see how these kids can develop, and then add your quality players to a young, effective, enthusiastic, positive team? I look at players like, you could go right the way through Aubameyang this season, Lacazette, Willian, Xhaka. They all look just bored. I think that's reflecting on us as supporters. Shween, help me out here. Talk to me.
It's absolutely true. I mean, that sense of apathy is palpable, and not having fans in the stadiums, which is changing soon, a week from today, I think, has had an effect on the management, on the fans, on the reaction in general. And I think to an extent, Arteta's pretty lucky that the fans haven't been around, because he's gotten away with quite a bit at times. I'll circle the conversation back to what happened with Pepe over the weekend and what Arteta said. I don't think the boys talked about it on the show this past week, but Arteta said something along the lines of that he let the team down, which to me is not very smart as a manager. He said that I think Pepe has already apologized. He's taken responsibility for it, but he also let the team down. And I feel like some of these things are becoming a bit more of an issue than just the performances. We understand that for any manager to be able to succeed will need time. And depending on their experience, that time may be longer than we expect from what we did from Guardiola or from Klopp, for example. But when you look at these instances, it's worrying, because it's not just about the tactics then, it's about man management. And you expect the football manager to understand that at the very least.
I think in defence of Arteta, and I'll come to Gunnar Glasgow in a minute, who is our resident Tottenham fan, I think. But just to stick up for Arteta, he was interviewed straight after that game. And I'm not saying his comments were right, but when he said straight after the game, when the adrenaline's pumping, and this is something he will learn as he gets more experienced in management, he said he let us down, he let the team down. But isn't that just what all of us fans were thinking at the time? What a stupid thing to do. I love Pepe. Sort of player that I pay to watch. When I go to the Emirates, that's the sort of player I want to see. And I think the comment was directly after the game. And if you see subsequently in the week, and then again before tonight's game, Arteta has come out and said, he was really apologetic to the team. He knows he's done something wrong. He's a human being. He makes mistakes. Let's get on and move on away from it. I think that's all he can do. And Pepe's performance tonight was exceptional against the second best team in Norway with a goalkeeper called Linda. It wasn't, it was, he redeemed himself to a certain extent, except he's going to be missing for the next 3 bloody important games because of an act of stupidity. But I don't think you can blame Arteta for calling him out in the heat of the moment and then backing him completely. I think that's right.
And I think I can, and I am, because that's how I feel. I understand that the emotion was there, and we did well to sort of.
What should he have said then, Shwin?
He shouldn't have said that. He should have just stopped it, saying, "Okay, look, he made a mistake. He learned from his inexperiences. He's apologized to his teammates."
The question was asked after the thing. Did Pepe let your team? Did Pepe let you down today?
No, that was not the question. I think the question was about Pepe, but it was not that direct, whether he let the team down. And even if that was the question, he shouldn't have said that. It's not something you want to say, especially from a player who's been underperforming, seriously underperforming, who we need to rely on in the short term, the next couple of years, to sort of pick up some of the luggage that Aubameyang will not be able to handle. And we are isolating him a little bit, and we're putting blame on him. He seems like a player who turns to really express himself when he's on the ball, but he doesn't seem to be like a player who's very outspoken. He seems like an introvert. And you have to deal with people differently. You have to deal with different employees differently. It's basic law of management. And you don't throw people under the bus.
I'll take all of that. Basic law of management. Arteta got it wrong, and Pepe had his best game of the season so far. Tell me how he got it wrong. He's just got the best out of a player.
I wouldn't say he's gotten the best out of Pepe. Pepe had a very good
best performance of the season.
No, I don't think so. I think he was better against Man United. Did he play against Man United? I don't remember. But I wouldn't say. I mean, I've seen Pepe play better for us, I'd argue.
All right. Wouldn't you not say that was a very good performance by Pepe tonight?
I was, but I think you're detracting from the larger point here. It's not about today's game per se.
Yeah, I mean, it's fundamentally why I love having you on the show, Swin, is because we disagree on absolutely everything, and I love that. But I just don't see how a manager who says what we're all feeling, says exactly what we're all feeling, and then has turned the situation around to get the best out of a player is bad management. He may learn that in the emotional 3 minutes after a game when a microphone is shoved in your face to think a little bit more. I mean, that's just something he will learn from experience. But look at how he's handled the situation. He's got the best out of a player. And the player is at fault. The player did something stupid, and the player is now going to be missing for 3 important games. Liam, anything to add on the Pepe Arteta situation?
Not really. I think you guys covered it quite well. And honestly, I'm more with you, Darren. I do think Arteta made a mistake. I don't think he necessarily should have said Pepe let the team down to everybody, whether we felt it or not. But I acknowledge that he seems to have learnt that he maybe has made a mistake, and it was down to maybe a bit of naivety on his part as an inexperienced manager. He seems to have learnt and gone, shouldn't have said that, and has gone quite some way to make up for it by publicly going, Pepe's apologised in public, he's apologised to the team, we're going to move on, he's going to play against Mulder, and sort of giving him an open door to come back and not shut the door in his face as it seemed he might have done.
Those of you watching on live on YouTube, you're welcome to send in your comments, messages and questions. Just want to cover something that Gunnar Glasgow has just said. Why are you making excuses for Arteta? I don't think there's many excuses for Arteta here. And I'll come over to the boys. You can give your opinion on that question. For me, Arsenal Football Club, and I'm a huge fan. I've watched lots of managers come and go, lots of players come and go. Mikel Arteta, if the club have decided that they see enough potential in this manager to give him not only the job originally, then to upgrade his job position to manager, and then to invest money that we haven't really got in players to support his side, then us as supporters need to give him time, and I mean time. He had a half a season last year in the strangest of circumstances, and now he's doing, he's learning on the job. We have to accept that. What do we want to do? Change again? Go and get somebody else who doesn't like 3 or 4 of these players that he's brought in, somebody who changes the system once again. No, let's persevere with this and let's put some faith in that manager. So there's no excuses. It's just supporting the club and supporting the manager. Shuin?
I understand that. I understand the questions as well, though. I think we sort of went deeper into talking about the Pepe situation, but I think there's a few things you can pick out and look at all of those combined and see a lack of consistency. I have to say that a lot of the information isn't made available to us, so we don't know exactly what's happening, and that's a big gap in our knowledge to form an informed opinion. But I understand why people like Gunnar Glasgow, if he's not a Tottenham fan, that is, feel like, when people support the club after there have been some very bad performances, why they feel like we're making excuses. So I do understand those concerns.
Liam, any comment back on Gunnar Glasgow?
Yeah, I saw the comment come in. I think it was as I was talking about the sort of squad. I mentioned about the squad, and I've seen this debate about are the players at fault or is Arteta at fault? Well, Arteta's made mistakes, sure, but I'm of the opinion that he's got a very limited squad still to work with. I mean, I could talk tactics all day and show you the things that Arteta have done, but it'll end up being a 2-hour-long pod. I think he is slightly handicapped in the squad that he has because, yes, he's the ones putting them on the pitch, but he has tried pretty much all the players and got virtually the same results, and it's not a good enough argument to excuse the players, in my opinion, to say Arteta's the one putting them on the pitch.
I seem to mention this for the last couple of shows, and I think it was Sushant who asked me earlier in the week, is Arteta anything like George Graham? And I don't want to go over old Graham because I have covered this before, but it was the thing that gets me with the George Graham thing is it's always a negative. Somehow George Graham's legacy at Arsenal is one of is a legacy of negativity. 1-0 to the Arsenal, boring Arsenal. We were the fans who were singing boring Arsenal because we were winning and nobody could get close to us. You know, we were that good. And there are so many similarities between the way that Arteta and George Graham started at the club. When George Graham joined Arsenal Football Club, we had 2 or 3 superstars and a very, very average team. So we had the likes of, I don't know, Charlie Nicholas, players who were real superstars, earning big money, flashy, talented players, but the team itself wasn't a team. And when George Graham came in, the first thing he did was to get rid of those players, a bit like Arteta has done with Ozil, a bit like Arteta has done with Guendouzi. George Graham did it with Charlie Nicholas. I think it was, I'm going back, it's a long time ago, Viv Anderson. There was stars in the team who were the big money earners. He got rid of them, brought in Lee Dixon, Nigel Winterburn, Stevie Bold, who were all unknown players that he obviously saw something in. And like Arteta, he formed a defensive unit that gave us the opportunity to build from that. It wasn't overnight success, but it was huge success compared to where we were. And I think Arteta is taking over and doing so, but I'll just see the message coming. What Arteta is doing, he's doing that. He's fixed the defence with the same personnel. You know, with fairly ordinary players. Mustafi has looked better. Holding looks better. Bellerina's got better. You know, and then the addition of Tierney, who's an excellent player, and suddenly we have got a very good defensive unit. You know, and I just sort of see that George Graham then went on to get players like Ian Wright and Anders Limpar, Brian Marwood, players that were attacking, exciting, and scored goals, and we were great to watch. So anything that links Arteta to George Graham, don't think of it as a negative thing. Think of it as a starting block, and if you get the defence right, you don't lose games, and we'll go on to some success. Shwin, I've talked too much. Say something while I read some of these messages.
The messages are pretty funny, to be fair. I've been reading them all this time, so you'd enjoy them. But I don't know. I feel like it's a bit of romanticism. I don't understand why people see George Graham negatively, so I completely agree with you there. But I feel like you also are seeing what you want to see a little bit with, you know, when it comes to the connection. The key difference is George Graham was winning quite a bit of games. Arteta has not been winning recently, I should say. Yeah, and there's of course more nuanced differences with the way the management has been dealt with and the times we are in. But yeah, I've never quite understood, although Graham was before my time as well. Having read about it and watched a few documentaries, I'm not quite sure why it's perceived in a negative way.
Yeah, I mean, I just think because those things, we were 1-0 to the Arsenal. That's where the song that we all sing at the Emirates and at Highbury, that was where the song was, because it became our anthem. You know, 1-0 to the Arsenal, because once we went 1-0 up, no one was going to score. And when you had Alan Smith and Ian right up front, we scored, you know, and then we scored and we controlled the game. We were never in trouble. Just a couple of comments coming out. Gunnar Glasgow says he's far from a Tottenham fan. I know, Gunnar Glasgow, you're just a tad on the negative side for me. And then he goes on to upset me even more by saying only people who are 70 remember George Graham. That's that's just harsh. I'm 55 years old and I remember 5 managers before him. so George Graham wasn't that long ago, mid-80s, I guess. Who else we got some messages from? Only Fools Lay Horses says, how did you prize Schwinn away from his PS5? Not sure. I guess it's because we go back a long way, and I needed a last minute replacement. Yes, clock end talk. Oh, is that Tony coming in? Morning, lads. Is this? Oh no, that must be Tez. Morning, lads. Is this Schwinn I hear? So you've obviously got a bit of a following, Schwinn.
I mean, I don't know why these boys are surprised. I messaged in the group earlier today that I can do it. So unless they haven't checked the group, this wasn't like a coup organized secretly.
Yeah, and don't let Tez give you any stick because he forgot to schedule this show until Liam mentioned it 30 minutes
20
before.
minutes
Nice
before
advertising, Tez. Nice advertising 30 minutes before. Let's go. I mean, let's talk general Arsenal. Watching that game tonight with Xhaka in the middle of the park. Who did Xhaka play alongside in the first half? I can't even remember. Willock. Yeah, it was a bit more advanced, wasn't he? All I'm saying is that for the first time, and going back to Gunnar Glasgow's 70-year-old comment, in all of my life watching Arsenal, we've always had a world-class player. Always. And in the good days, we had 3 or 4 of them. This is the first side I can really remember where there is no one that gets you off the edge of your seat in the central midfield. There's no Santi Cazorla, even Cesc Fabregas, Liam Brady. There's no Patrick Vieira. There isn't one player that you can give. Mesut Ozil. No one player.
He who should not be named.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels to me that there's just in all of the teams I've watched, there's always a player you can give it to, and something will happen. We haven't got that in our side, Liam, at the moment, have we? Got a lot of journeyman footballers.
Not really, no. I mean, you can hope the party will be, but we haven't seen enough of him yet to know if he will be that person. But otherwise, you're absolutely right. No, Xhaka, Ceballos and El Neni are the other options, and I'm not getting off the edge of my seat for them, guys. I'll tell you that now.
Hasn't Ceballos he's become a bit of a disappointment to me? I can say that because he's not an Arsenal player; he's just on loan, so it keeps my positivity for Arsenal players. But doesn't he just look a little disappointing? His head's down. He's obviously not working as hard in training because he doesn't start very well. Schwinn, I can't see you, but I'm sure you're looking at me.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, he's a very difficult one because every now and then he looks leggy. And it feels like it's taking him more effort to cover the same amount of ground. He's not the quickest anyway, but he has a good boost that can help him get out of, difficult situations. And he's tidy on the ball, but when we're on the break, and that's when we sort of need him to find those through balls and to find men in space, he just lacks it, by 1 second often. And I don't think that applied today. I don't think it was just the turf today, but even generally, he just feels a bit leggy every now and then. It's just a flip of a coin. And I agree with you. But it's going to be interesting to see how him and Partey pair up. And over time, if that blossoms at all, because I think that is something that we can explore a bit more. But I agree with you and Liam that there is no one just yet who you can rely on week in, week out.
Okay. I wanted to take Max to task tonight on, but unfortunately he's playing golf, on Ainsley Maitland-Niles, because Max, who normally does the show on a Thursday night, his favourite player is Ainsley Maitland-Niles. And he thinks that by the end of this season, he will be our first choice right back. Now, after he said that, I've watched him very, very closely every time he's played. And today he played at left back, and he played in his preferred position for the last 20 minutes, 30 minutes in the centre of midfield. I'd like your feelings on Maitland-Niles. I watched him tonight. It was in the first 10, 15 minutes. The second best team in Norway, with a goalkeeper called Linda, played a thing down the right hand side, and a lovely little flick from one of their players just sold Maitland-Niles. He was just completely lost. That can happen. But I just watched him after that had happened, and he sort of wanders, he looks around, looks from side to side, and then thinks, "Oh, I better run back." And if you watch him, the co-commentator Karen Carney, another person who shouldn't be doing TV, she was saying what an excellent game he had. But I just think he always looks a little confused. He always looks a little like his concentration drops. And I'm just concerned that he's another player that we've kept that we probably could have got 20 million for from Wolves in the summer. Liam?
No, I think he could be a really good player if he sets his mind to it. because his best games for us always come in the big games, the challenges where we've got to sort of rise to the occasion. But away at Mulder in a game we sort of expect to win, if we do, we're through with 2 games to spare. If we don't win, don't really matter too much. We'll still go through. It's like he doesn't care so much. He doesn't sort of put the same effort in. And I think you could be a very, very good and powerful player if you bothered to put
Liam's just
the effort
frozen
in
with his...
every time you play. And that's why I don't think he'll get that. I froze again, didn't I?
Yeah, only
I saw your screen jump. Did I freeze again?
Yeah, only briefly, but with your mouth closed, it was all good. Shwin,
Once.
do you think Maitland-Niles is, like Liam saying, is just a little bit hard to get up for a game, or is there more concern? Or maybe he's just a little bit like Mesut Ozil in his demeanour, where he just looks lethargic as he runs because he's got that sort of languid style. What's your take on him? Did you think he played well tonight?
I think it was all right. Nothing special today. But you know, there's. I want to come to the defense because of some of the parallels you made. You know, this sort of subjunctive mood is a bit different than what we consider to be competition, and people have different personalities, and you need to let them sort of process it. I appreciate that as fans who are watching from a distance, even if you're in a stadium, seeing players gesticulate and be animated when something wrong happens, or even when you score a goal, you appreciate that visible and evident passion. But you can have that same feeling without having to externalize it. So while I understand that Maitland-Niles has, you know, he's very prone to lapses in concentration. And I think one of the reasons he's better when he's playing against the bigger teams is because he forces himself, the competition, the level of competition forces him to be more aware and be more turned on. Against Molde, as you sort of alluded to, Darren, it's probably hard for most of these players to get out of the bed. And especially for someone like Maitland-Niles, who, you know, had a chance to get away in the summer and was shown some sort of faith from the manager and hasn't quite been able to integrate himself. And it sort of makes a point to the larger point that some players have to build up that momentum to be able to perform at a high level, and they just cannot come into the team every now and then and put that high level performance. Maybe Ainsley is one of those players. So I'm a bit more sympathetic because I think he's shown time and again that he has the quality. We're just unable to give him that game time for good reason that is allowing us to exploit that week in, week out.
You see, Shwin, I agree with 90% of what you say, except the one thing that makes it all difficult to agree with is you're talking about a player that isn't played very regularly, isn't playing very regularly. He's not. So if he can't get himself up for when he is actually selected for the team, like Nelson did, like Willock has done, like Nketiah is doing, these players who, and you're right, I absolutely agree with the thing that players are different and players externalize things differently. But if Maitland-Niles is trying to prove that he deserves a place in that first team, then is it really acceptable that we're still making excuses for his lack of concentration because it's only the second best team in Norway with a goalkeeper called Linda?
I think we can flip it almost. If his level of performance was high, then we could excuse the lapses, as we tend to do with many of the good, very, very good players that we've seen over the years. But you're absolutely bang on that you'd expect that a player like that, who's given the chance to make a name for himself, especially when the first team is not quite gelling together and there is room for change, you'd expect to see them turned on throughout the 90. And I think even in the last Europa League game, you know, there were a couple of moments there where he was really, really just completely switched off. So you'd expect better from him, and I do too. I don't disagree with you there. But I think my exception was mostly with the externalization of how you feel about something.
Sure, and I agree with that. And maybe should also say that he was excellent going forward today, and him and Nelson played extremely well together. That looked like a partnership straight from the training ground. You know, they looked like they knew exactly what they were doing, always giving each other options. So it was, you know, I mean, I'm not saying he had a bad game today. I'm just concerned that, you know, we've got a £20 million offer for a player that, even when we turn up against Mulder, he can't really look the finished article. And he was playing out of position. He's playing as a left back. You know, that's maybe we can give some latitude to him. What else about tonight's game? Anything else that jumps out at you tonight that you want to talk about from tonight's game? Lacazette's complete lack of confidence in front of goal.
Balogun got on the score sheet.
Yeah.
Got to touch on that, surely.
Well, I mean, look, it's back to I'd like to see this team play on Monday night, or whenever we're playing Wolves. When is that? Is that Monday?
Sunday
or
night, I think.
Sunday night, is it? I'd like to see that team play. You know, Balogun's another contract issue, isn't he? He's just breaking through, and I think he's out of contract. So that's, I guess, at the end of this season, that's a huge concern because he's been banging in goals for fun all the way through his career, and sometimes players like Lacazette works so hard, works his nuts off, but whatever he does, nothing is going right for him at the moment, nothing. And he has a great shot in this game against a fairly indifferent goalkeeper. And even the goalkeeper makes the best. Linda pulls one out of the bag, you know. But yeah, nice to see a young kid come on, scuff a shot, and let it go in. You know, that's just football, isn't it? Go on, Lee, you want to talk about him?
No, I was going to say, when it sort of goes your way, it was nice to see him sort of take the touch, opens it up quite well, and just get a shot off. Because Lacazette doesn't usually get a shot off, and it was quite refreshing to see from that respect. And well, he got his reward, I guess, didn't he? But you're right, it doesn't go for Lacazette, but amazingly it does for the 18-year-old kid about 90 seconds after he comes on the pitch.
Yeah, second.
It was a nice moment for him.
Yeah, first touch. First touch. It was once again a very good move, very good balling by, I think it was Nelson, wasn't it? Great little spin by Emil Smith-Rowe, who saw the run. Great little turn and a good finish. Yeah, excellent. Just a message there from Tez saying that's what happens when you become retired. That's why he forgot to schedule tonight's show, because he's retired now. All right, I'll accept that one, Tess. Anything else in tonight's game, Shrin, that you want to bring up before we talk some general stuff?
Yeah, we can talk about Lacazette. It was interesting to see him play quite a bit deeper. You know, when the team sheet came out, I thought it could be like a 4-4-2 with Eddie and Laka either running the channel or one of them dropping deep, taking turns perhaps, but it was mostly Lacazette. And I think especially in the second half, he took really, really deep positions. We were camped for a bit, so it could have just been a byproduct of that. But again, he's technically good. You know, when he takes up those positions on the edge of the box, he's allowing people to play off of him, those quick wall passes. And he shows himself. He's brave. He's not hiding. So kudos for that. But, you know, can he gel into our first team? You know, we saw Aubameyang play in the middle this past weekend. Wasn't the greatest performance overall, and neither was from him. But maybe Arteta's going to stick with that, and that leaves Lacazette here, maybe off the bench as an impact player over the weekends. It's all a bit out there, isn't it?
Did you not think Lacazette? I don't want to mention him on this podcast, but it's what I would now call the Harry Kane role. You know, a centre forward that actually is just completely confusing everyone by dropping so deep, and with fast runners in Nketiah and Willock and Pepe and Nelson, someone who drops deep and then fires that ball in, and it's sort of the Harry Kane role without the ability to hold up the ball, fall over to get fouls, or to put that long pass through.
That's it then, isn't it? If it's the wrong person to play that role, then it's just not what you should be doing, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know who we've got though. Anything else from tonight's game? I just wanted to touch briefly. Go on. Anything else you want to? Anything that stood out tonight? Goalkeeper was fairly solid. Centre halves did what they needed to do. Luis looks like he was
captain.
Sorry,
Mustafi was captain for a period of time. I never thought I'd say that. That was good fun. Well, now you mentioned the centre backs. Sorry.
Well, there's going to be some big competition there, isn't there? Mari's back in full training, I understand. Gabriel is obviously there now. Holding is looking very good. Callum Chambers is coming back to fitness. Obviously, you've still got Mustafi, David Luiz. I mean, we said we had a shed load of centre halves. We're going to have some selection issues soon. Liam, you're the tactical guy. Looking at what you've seen so far, and I know we've only had limited exposure to Mari. Who's your first two? Luiz
and Gabriel.
Okay, Swin?
Yeah, ditto.
Yeah, I'm going off of Luiz a little bit, just a little. I've been such a defender and supporter of David Luiz. I thought it was a complete no-brainer that we signed him. Great experience, good personality, born winner, won everything in the game, got a lot of young kids coming through, pay as you play contract almost. It's going to cost us a few quid, but what a great asset to Arsenal Football Club. He was one of the best players in the world. We know he's going to get worse, not better. But I just see now that I think, there's so many mistakes in him in the early parts of games that I'm starting to think that Holding has sort of deserved to get that first choice now over Luiz.
The thing with Luiz, sorry, Liam, just quickly, the thing with Luiz is that he can be a creative tool in the arsenal, if you will, which we lack at times. And I don't want to relegate us to thinking that, how can a defender be our creative tool? But he is, and that's an asset for him. He can pick out those wide fullbacks and help us start something that we saw against Leicester, which we dearly missed once he went off. So yeah. I think he brings something extra to the team. And while he is prone, I think right now we're lacking in our offense quite a bit. And having that extra sort of card to play is an asset to have.
Yeah. Liam, anything to add on Luiz? Or?
No, Schwinn kind of stole exactly what I was going to say. When we talk about creativity, we need sort of ball progression from different areas of the pitch, and Luiz is the one that offers it from the deepest. And I don't think we have anyone else who does it. So I'm perfectly happy having Luiz in that squad for that reason. And Gabriel is solid in the defensive sense, unlike other defenders that we have, and has the recovery speed to help Luiz. So yeah, that's the reason for my pairing.
Aren't you a bit fearful that both Luiz and Gabriel have both got mistakes in them? I mean, Gabriel's had a fairly solid start to his Arsenal career, but his first touch is somewhat, let's say, less than assured. I mean, he's a big guy. It's good to have a big stopper there. But a bit fearful that Luiz and Gabriel just open us up to too many people running onto us, too many mistakes, not enough pace there.
Not too worried, if I'm honest. I mean, yeah, Gabriel was a bit loose against Leeds with his touches. I think he tried to control it with his dick at least 3 or 4 times. But most of that sort of stuff's coachable. You can coach someone how to take better touch under pressure and release earlier and things like that. So it doesn't worry me too much, especially with Gabriel. He's only 22, isn't he? He's younger than me still, for crying out loud. He can learn. It doesn't worry me.
No. Anything else on tonight's game? We don't normally do reviews. We just normally talk about whatever's going on in football.
Quickly on Luiz. Were any of you surprised that he wasn't taken off when he was completely clattered in the box?
Is that the reason he was subbed off in the end?
I suspect so. I mean, I haven't seen anything officially, but he got a good spanking on that one. And I cannot imagine how he wasn't concussed. I mean, I'm just purely speculating here, but it looked like a tough one.
I'm with you, Schwinn. I thought when he went down, you could see him every time the camera went to him, he was sort of shaking his head and looking a bit confused. Looking a bit like me most of the time. But I thought that maybe he just said, "Give me a couple of minutes." Maybe. That shouldn't be a decision that's made by the player, and it should be made by the medical staff. But yeah, I was very surprised, and I wasn't surprised that he didn't come out for the second half. Talking of excellent players, was that minute silence at the start of the game for Maradona?
Yeah, I think so.
Jesus, they'll give it for anyone these days, wouldn't they? I guess, so Liam, you're an Englishman, but too young to remember 86, I guess.
I've seen it enough times to hate him for it. No, won't speak of it.
I don't know where your loyalties lay on that. It'd be nice to hear your opinion. You obviously know the thing I'm referring to is the 1986 World Cup. I don't know if it was the semi-final or the quarter-final. Semi-final, I think. England versus Argentina. And Diego Maradona goes up for a ball that's crossed in, and he puts his arm up. And it's the only time I want to talk to you about VAR, Schwinn, because we've got some things to cover there. But he puts his arm up above his head, and his arm is that high. He's above our goalkeeper, and he punches it into the net, and they go on to knock us out of the World Cup. So I hate Diego Maradona, the hand of God, the cheating twat. And now they give him minute silence for him. Jesus, Schwinn, where are you on that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, this is way before my time, but I've been educated in the lore, so I know what's up. And I suppose I don't remember him for that much. I remember him more for the goal he scored in that game where he took the ball on the half turn at the halfway line, ran past your whole country and scored. That's the one I remember more.
Yeah, but if he'd have been sent off by then for deliberate handball and God knows what else in that game, then he wouldn't have been able to do it.
Yeah, well, ifs and buts is I don't want to go there, but a lot of what I've seen of Maradona is just just partying it up and just living the life that most people want to live, but are either too poor or just not free enough to do that.
I'm sure I would have liked the man more as a man than I did as a footballer. Do you know? I mean, I'm sure I'd have had a good time with the man, but not as a footballer. I mean, I am the only one here, I guess, who's watched Maradona. He was up there. He was like a Messi with some strength. So if you can imagine Messi, but with a little bit more bulk behind him, still that diminutive, incredibly skillful player, but had a little bit of upper body strength as well for a small man. He was a joy to watch, one of the best ever, but I can't forgive him for that. Sorry, Liam, I just want to pull Schwinn on VAR because Schwinn used to, Schwinn got me involved with the Clock End Talk, and then Schwinn came on my podcast on a few occasions when I was living in India, and we managed to meet up, as I said, a few times, more than we did since he's moved to England. And we used to argue. One of our podcasts, I think we did 45 minutes just arguing about the introduction of VAR into our football. And I argued, as I continue to argue, that I didn't see how it would add to our game. I didn't see it would add any value. And I'd be just as happy standing in a pub on a Saturday night arguing with my mates that the referee was a cunt than I would having the game slowed up by this second refereeing. And I talked just there about Maradona's hand of God, and there was a similar incident with a Lampard goal for England that went about a yard over the line and wasn't given. So, but for me, VAR, there's maybe one incident every 5 games where there's been such a terrible decision that I would wish for VAR. And Schwinn, you used to argue the opposite. You used to argue, as you youngsters do, it's modern technology, the right decisions will be made, everything's going to be good. 18 months in, was I right?
Yes, to an extent. I don't think it's binary. I think it's a journey. I suppose the trade-off is, are you willing to sacrifice the moment for a higher chance of getting the right decision?
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And I find myself not being able to celebrate right when the net is rippled these days.
Yeah, maybe that's just lack of counter football. I mean, and that's not a criticism. Maybe that is just it. Maybe it's the very difference of being a TV fan to being a stadium fan. I don't know. But
I don't think so, because I remember very vividly shouting at my TV and jumping when the ball used to hit the net. Now I wait, I reserve myself for a few seconds before the flag goes up or we know there's a check going on. But after a game, just quickly, after a game, I find myself either consoled or gratified by the fact that the decisions were right when they're right.
Yes,
that's what justifies it for me.
There's so many things that aren't right in that, though, because you're making it sound like since the introduction of VAR, they've got the decisions right. All we're doing now is arguing about a referee that we can't see rather than the referee we can. Yeah, it's just one guy's subjective opinion over another guy's subjective opinion. There's been one or two, really good decisions. I love the fact that linesmen, assistant referees don't put the flag up anymore until the play's finished. I think that's an excellent introduction. I think that just gives attacking football more. But the fundamental, Liam, you have a chat on this, but the fundamental joy for me in watching football is when that ball goes in the back of the net. And now you're right. There's a second now you think, oh, it's a goal, or is it? And that pure joy and that ecstasy of scoring a goal is now diminished. And Liam, you come in on this, but I just wanted to mention Tony, who does the review show. We argued about this, as we did many things. And I said it would stop the celebrations. And he was saying, no, it won't. And about 3 months into last season, he said, Darren was right. Do you know, he said, we don't celebrate quite as much because we're not sure anymore. And I think that's a fundamental pleasure that's been removed from the game of football. Liam?
Yeah, I think it's quite sad when you do that, especially like you were saying about us TV fans, and when the guys in the ground are doing the same, it's quite sad. I mean, I see it from 2 points of view. One, I'm autistic. I like rules, and when they're broken, it makes me very uncomfortable. The problem is the rules are still being broken, and I've said it before on these pods. I can sympathise more as an ex-referee myself with a referee who's trying to make a decision live in the game and gets it wrong than a guy who's had 2 full minutes to slow down every single angle and still get it wrong. At least I could sympathise with the guy on the field before.
Yeah, I mean, Schwinn, you said it's a journey, and I understand that. I really do, and I sort of, I'm old and I'm old-fashioned in that respect. I like my football. I didn't think there was a problem, and I think it's goal line technology. I absolutely agree with. That's black and white. Offsides have turned into becoming a bit of a nonsense. Subjective decisions have become a nonsense, and we're coming up to 18 months into this journey of VAR, and it's got, in my opinion, worse, not better. Is that the same for you?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it is. And yeah, I mean, a journey doesn't just mean a linear journey. Sometimes that you have to sort of look back on what you've done and review and ratify and then proceed. So I understand. I mean, I'm right there with you guys in those moments when the wrong decision is given, despite those angles. And sometimes not even the right angles are seen. So it's all a bit, you feel like people are experimenting, and that this technology has not been utilized the way it should be.
Did you watch that? Did you watch? Sorry to cut off you, Swin. Did you watch I'm asking you. Did you watch that Manchester United West Brom game at the weekend? Manchester United, very rarely in front of 70,000 people do they concede penalties, and they conceded a penalty, and the referee gave a penalty. And I'm looking at it thinking, yeah, it's a penalty. And then the pundits have their bit and they go, yes, it's a penalty. And then the referee that they've got working for Sky comes on and goes, yeah, it's a penalty. And the guy in VAR tells the referee to go and have a look on the monitor, and the referee changes his mind. And it's 4 minutes of my life that's just wasted. And it's almost like that referee had 4 minutes to think, oh, shit, I've given a penalty against Manchester United. I better not. I'm going to get some shit. And I know that's probably not the case, but that's how it feels to me. It's just gone backwards.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. Only a fool would argue with that. But I still think
that's why I had you on the show, Schwinn.
but that doesn't mean this is the end of it, and that doesn't mean that we cannot improve it.
No, I mean, having that technology there, and I think when you argued against me when it was introduced, I think the argument that was the best that you gave me was, they're going to stop bad mistakes taking place. And if this was just to run in the background with no checking every goal, no everything, just let them run in the background and a referee there spotting things that the referee has missed and then bringing his attention to them. I think that's the only way for me it can work now. Let the referee the game. Let him make the decisions. And only if there's something absolutely wrong, then VAR can ask him to go and have another look himself. That's the only way it can work for me.
Yeah.
Good. Anything else you want to talk about? We've done Maradona, done VAR. We've realised that Schwinn was wrong and I was right, which is always a good way to end a podcast. We've done an hour. Always like to do an hour. Anything else you want to add?
Not quite.
No, can't think of anything else.
Well, in which case, we're going to keep this short this week, lads. Thursday night live. Busy day tomorrow for me. Schwinn, really, really, really great for you to step up and come on the podcast. Thanks, mate. It's really nice to talk to you. Eloquent as usual. I would like to say eloquent and handsome as usual, but I can't see your face. Maybe you're not anymore. Eloquent as usual. Thanks so much for jumping in short notice to come and help us out.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I'll make sure that I'll try and return and fill in for one of the boys when they're missing.
Yeah, no, to be fair, it'd be nice to have you back on. You're always good company. Liam, as usual, stalwart of the show. I was going to, if Schwinn hadn't turned up, we were going to do an hour on tactics. And I was just going to
Schwinn.
Sorry, Liam. Next time, I'll tell Max to take a golf weekend next time.
Schwinn, for those who don't know, where can people find you, Schwinn, if they want to follow you on Twitter? Are you still at AFC Schwinn?
Yes, I barely tweet, but yeah, every now and then I'll sneak in there.
Me and you both. Liam, you are at Groaning Gooner if you want to follow Liam. Liam does tweet a lot, talks a lot of nonsense, but then that's what Twitter is for.
Why not?
I'm Darren. You can find me at Deli Gooner. Thanks for listening to a Thursday Night Live. We will be back at. Well, are we playing next week? Obviously, we've got Wolves on Sunday.
Yeah, we've got Europa, haven't we?
We haven't even talked about fans being allowed back in. Arsenal going to have
it's Rapid
2,000
Vienna.
fans there.
Rapid Vienna, I think we come back for that.
Yeah, 8 o'clock UK kickoff.
Okay, so it's a late one next week. So we'll see how we get on.
Darren, get me tickets if you can for that one.
It's
impossible. It's going to be. I know, but if you find ever, then
seriously, my nephew's just been texting me, asking me if I'm going next Thursday, if I get a ticket. And when I said I doubt it, he said, "Can you transfer it to me?" The state of play at Arsenal, from what I understand, is at the start of this season, I, along with all of the gold and platinum members, had the opportunity to put a deposit of £250, which was fundamentally what the club owed us for the games we missed last year, if we wanted to enter a ballot for tickets. And because I'm a season ticket holder, because they know who is going to be there due to COVID, then, and I've paid my money, then I can get a ticket, but they're not going to be transferable at the moment. I think when they got up to 20,000, I think then you could sell them to friends and family, people within your bubble, all sorts of things. But this week, with only 2,000 tickets, I don't think I'm going to bother for a dead rubber against Austria Vienna, where none of my Arsenal mates I go with bothered to pay the £250. But who knows? I know by Saturday morning I'll probably be changing my mind, and I'll go and watch those kids I love so much. Anyway, look, I'm waffling. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll be back at the same time or possibly later, 10 o'clock next Thursday night for Thursday Night Live. And we will all see you again next week. Press the end broadcast button, Darren. Don't forget, like last week.